Hello and welcome back to another episode of Work in Progress, the podcast for surviving solopreneurs. I'm Kat and we have
Nicoletta.
And today we're going to be talking about something that's really crucial for everyone in their freelance journey. We all go through this point where we're working 9 to 5, a full-time job, part-time job, and then we transition into freelancing. And everyone kind of does this differently, but it's a really crucial point also in all of our journeys. So that's why we've brought on Samantha Blake today. Currently, she's balancing a 9 to 5 job, a thriving freelance business, Samantha Digital, also putting out content almost daily, and planning a wedding, which is like a job on its own. So before we get all into that and how she does that, Samantha, could you introduce yourself and just let us know a bit about who you are, what you do, and how's your wedding planning going?
Hi, Kat and Nicoletta. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. My name is Sam. I usually go by Sam, ironically, even though it's Samantha Digital. But so Samantha Digital is a web design and SEO agency for ambitious small business owners that don't want to rely solely on social media for their business growth. And so I started Samantha Digital back in about 2021-ish, and it's definitely been a slow-ish journey, but learned so much along the way, and while working full time. So it's been a lot, but it's been very, very enjoyable for the most part. Of course, there's like some bad days, but for the most part, it's been very good. And thank you for asking about wedding planning. That's also good. We're almost to the finish line there, and I'm excited.
And when's the special day?
April 20th.
April 20th. So only a
This
month.
year.
Yeah, this year. So we're really close to the finish line. It's almost around the corner.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, so excited.
Are you excited about being married, the event, or the honeymoon?
I'm so excited about all of it, every moment. I think I'm most excited for the wedding ceremony itself. And then, well, I don't know how I could pick just one because the ceremony is going to be the most special part of the day. And then you have the dancing after, and the honeymoon will be nice as well.
Yeah.
And additional question to that, you're not going to work, right? As a freelancer, you're not going to work, right?
Oh my gosh, no, definitely I am disconnecting. So I do have, some things like kind of planned while I'm away so that it's not like Samantha Digital doesn't totally become a ghost town, but for the most part, I will be fully disconnected.
Good.
Nice.
Amazing.
Good. That's like what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that prompted you to start freelancing in the first place, when you were already, I assume you were already working, then you started freelancing. So how did that happen?
Oh, yeah. So, freelancing was definitely never part of the plan. I actually was for years really enjoying my 9 to 5, and the plan was to race up the corporate ladder and, be some sort of executive or something. But in about 2020, I was getting so burned out. I was regularly working 10 to 12-hour days, and I was just thinking, like, I'm working so hard and I have no desire to make it to the next level. For example, like get to my boss's position. I was like, this is definitely not something that I could actually see myself wanting. And so at the time, I didn't have like, some perfectly defined plan of like, I'm going to do this, this, and this and build Samantha Digital. At the time, it was like, well, like I love technology. I love cooking and baking. So like, let me start a food blog. And so that was such a fun hobby at the beginning of just like after work, learning about creating a website, how to create blog content. But about a year and a half into that, I realized that I think really what I love is the web design and the SEO piece. And so I was definitely very hesitant to transition into that path because I thought like, oh, how could somebody like with no experience in this start doing this? And I just felt like it would never happen. But kind of slowly and surely, I was just kind of working my way into that. And so that's what brought me to this place of Samantha Digital.
Basically, a passion project of your own.
Exactly, yes, a very long-term passion project.
And tracing back the freelancing, but where did your ambition and passion for SEO started? I'm really curious. How did you realize, oh my God, I really love how these words are bringing up numbers and how everything works underneath? When did that started?
Ooh, I love that question because I think like it happens with most bloggers at some point. They like create a blog, they start writing, and they're like, nobody's reading my blog. Like, how do I get people to visit my blog? And
Mm,
then it's like enter SEO, and it's like, oh, that's what I need to do. And I really liked the SEO piece because it's very systematic and it is more, it's procedural. I mean, there is definitely an art to SEO, but for
mhm,
the most part, it's like a process that you can follow and it's repeatable. And I love that, especially combined with the web design, because the web design piece is much more creative. And sure, of course, there's strategy, but I love the
Mhm.
balance of the ability to be creative with web design, but also, procedural and like check boxes with SEO.
amazing.
Yeah.
And when did you start cooking, basically? You always had the passion for cooking and blogging just came
Yes,
afterwards?
yes. That was definitely the first passion. So I love baking, I love hosting parties and having my friends come over for dinner or for Friendsgiving and baking cookies around the holidays. And so my blog was all around seasonal dishes like desserts and like party hosting. So, and I still love that, but I definitely do that a lot less now that I have Samantha Digital, but one day I'll go back to it.
Mm. And was this blog monetized at all, or was it purely just for passion? Like you really enjoyed it?
The intention was for it to be monetized, but I went about it all wrong because I was writing about what I wanted to write about and the topics that I wanted to write about, and my sole focus wasn't getting traffic and monetizing. I thought eventually
Mm.
that would come if I just, kept at it because blogging is a long-term journey and
Mm,
stuff. But then by a year and a half into it, when I was really taking time to dig into the SEO, I realized that my strategy was just all off. And so I do think that one day I would love to go back and totally revamp it and
Mm.
implement my current SEO
Mm.
strategy into this blog. But at the time, like it would be my focus would be split too much. So I just decided to like kind of leave it as it is and focus on Samantha Digital. But yeah, the intention was for my food blog to be monetized, but I think I only made a few bucks with Amazon affiliates.
Yeah, okay. But
that's
that's
great.
really interesting. I think a lot of people say that if you're, if you follow your passion and just keep doing it and keep going, then like eventually you will become successful. Whereas like that's obviously not really the case. Like you need to follow your passion and keep going, but you also need to put like some strategy.
Mm.
Do you have advice maybe for bloggers like how to balance like what you really want to write about versus the strategic part?
Mhm.
Oh man, this is a good question. And I don't know if I'm the best one to ask now about this because
That's
I would almost
okay.
say, like, you really need to decide, do you want to make blogging a hobby or do you want to make blogging a business?
Mm,
And you need to decide, I recommend deciding that like really early on and then sticking with it. And so that means like, I'm not going to make Christmas cookies just because I want to make Christmas cookies. I'm going to make XYZ cookies because that's what the data is telling me to make. And so,
mm,
really following the traffic is so, so important. And so, I just told myself, oh, it may take like a few more months or so, but eventually it'll get there. In my case, that was not the case. It could definitely happen. You might get lucky and it might work, but like if you want to be strategic, it's all about following the data.
mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any sources for following trends and keywords, or where do you spend most of your time when you want to research a certain topic?
So my favorite tool ever is Ahrefs. That's a great source for data for people in the SEO community.
Mm-hmm.
But something that is much more accessible to just people wanting to like learn more about SEO and get started would be a tool like Answer the Public. That's a
Mm-hmm.
great tool to find topics that people are searching for and want to learn more about. And I highly recommend that as well.
Great,
Hmm.
thank you.
Very good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Have you guys heard of
Hmm.
Answer the Public?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
have
use it a
personally.
bit, but
Yeah.
I find I see all the questions there, but then I think taking that and turning it into like good content or blogging is then the next step. That yeah,
Mm.
it's
Yeah,
a whole
that's such a good
process to
point.
learn.
Yes,
I often
totally.
I often reverse engineer, and for example, I want to make a tutorial about certain part of Webflow, for example, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but wait a minute, what exactly people are typing in YouTube? And then
Yes.
I
Mm.
start typing in YouTube, and I see also forums and what actual people need, and then I adjust my content, and visibly those videos perform much better than me just coming up with the idea and just making the video for it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool, Nicoletta. So, and yeah, that you hit on like such a good point that I think a lot of people don't even necessarily consider is
Mm,
when you are searching in YouTube and YouTube will recommend potential searches, like
yeah.
that is gold right there. So, I think a lot of people
Mhm.
don't think about that, but they use search engines all the time, and that is such a powerful way to come up with keywords.
Yeah, exactly.
And going back to the freelancing, what's your
Mhm.
kind of long-term goal? Are you hoping that Samantha
Ooh.
Digital will be your full-time thing? And when do you see that happening, if ever?
Yes, that is very much the goal to make Samantha Digital my full-time job and grow it into an agency. And I think I still want to focus strictly on web design and SEO. I think I would like to slowly incorporate a branding piece, brand design, because I think that really goes hand in hand with web design. And oftentimes, at least so far in my journey, I haven't found many clients where they come to me with their brand fully designed and they need a website. And so I think it would be really nice to be able to add that as a skill as well, slowly though. So that is the long-term goal. And in terms of timeline, man, that is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
I would love to say 2025, but we'll see.
Mm.
Life happens. I'm going to continue to work hard and we'll see, but not
Yeah,
totally sure yet.
exactly. I think that's a good way to play it, like see what happens because you never know what could happen in 6 months. Also like what you feel like maybe it's nice to have that stability of income at the moment, like when you're still growing before you jump in the deep end, as they say.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a question from one of our listeners,
Ooh.
Borislav, who is
Yeah.
based in Croatia, I think.
No, my student is based in Bulgaria, and I asked him if we have this guest on our podcast. He also listens to the podcast, and
Uh-huh.
she's also juggling full-time job and also having her own business. What questions would you ask? And he said,
Mm,
my first question is, how do you manage your energy and where do you get your energy from? Because after my full-time job, 4 p.m., I cannot do anything. My brain just doesn't actually cannot work with this load after work. Like it shuts down. Do you have any kind of advice or secret maybe
mm,
to share about that?
Oh, I wish there was a special secret hack that just energizes me and gets me so motivated after work. But I think really for me, what it comes down to is like making sure that I'm doing something that I love. Like I
Mm,
love web design and SEO. If I didn't love it, then I would become a couch potato. And so that really like kind of fuels me. But I think even more than that is just thinking about the future of Samantha Digital and all
mhm,
of the opportunity and helping people. That is like what really gets me excited. And
mm,
my biggest hack for like when I'm having maybe it's just not even like feeling motivated for the day or
mhm,
having to go to work on Samantha Digital. This helps me in like Samantha Digital. It also helps me with like chores around the house and just like adulting
mm.
is
mhm,
start with a fun task. Start with a task that
Oh,
you actually want to do. Don't start
mhm,
with the most painful thing to just get it out of the way. I like
mhm,
to start with something that's like a little quick win that kind of excites me because then checking that box is like, oh, okay, well, while I'm here, why don't I just do this other thing? And that kind of snowballs into doing more and more. So I
mm,
always do that like on a lazy night when I'm feeling just kind of burnt out. But I will say too that I also am a big believer in like rest and relaxation is hugely productive. Even taking a night off and going out with your friends, like
mm,
I think that is productive and there's nothing wrong with that. I know some, entrepreneurs are like it's like you have to go all in and say no to everything, but for me, I find like those social interactions and taking the night off is so important for like the long-term sustainability of Samantha Digital. And I would encourage anyone, I would hope others would feel the same way about that.
yeah.
amazing.
I think it's hard sometimes with this like toxic productivity that goes around a lot on the internet. Because I know a couple of years ago, I was also like this, when they say like put full in like everything into your business. So I was like working weekends and everything, which was great. Like I'm happy I put in the time. But even like when I'd be going to the gym, I'd be listening to podcasts about business. And I don't know, like my mind was just always
Always.
on. And I
Constantly.
think I suffered probably with like the creativity part because of course like your mind is just tired, you need to rest, which
Totally.
probably I would have benefited from taking a bit of more time. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you focus on your business after working hours, like after your full-time job. Is it
Yeah.
always like that, or do you also sometimes make time during the weekends, or how do you allocate your time?
Oh yeah. So my favorite thing to do is actually just start working as soon as I wake up. Um, I consider myself a morning person. My fiance does not consider me a morning person, but my definition of I think I'm a morning person. I get up around anywhere between 5 to 5:45, depending on the day. And I have a
Mm-hmm.
cup of coffee, and I really just like to jump into my favorite top task for the day and just start having productive work. And then around 7, I'll walk the dog and then start my 9 to 5 job. And then after, I'll have dinner, walk the dog, catch up with my partner, and then for the rest of the evening for a few hours I'll work, and having that also break between my 9 to 5 and then starting on Samantha Digital to
Hmm.
walk the dog, to have dinner, to do, take a little bit of a disconnection from sitting at my desk, I also
Mm-hmm.
find to be really helpful. And yeah, I don't I really like working on a Saturday. I mean, I don't know. I think that's why it's so important to love what you do. Um, for
Mm.
example, I think a very strategic business decision that I could make is to go all in on SEO and put web design and brand design to the side.
Mm-hmm.
But I would get, I wouldn't love that. That wouldn't excite me. It wouldn't fuel my fire. I wouldn't wake up being excited to work. And so that's why to me, I value having that split more so than I do necessarily going all in on SEO and being fully booked with SEO. And so I think it's like kind of having that conversation with yourself and deciding what's most important to you. Do you want to build a business that you love, or do you want to build a business to escape a job that you don't like? And,
Mm.
making sure that you still are loving what you're transitioning to along the way, I think is
Mm-hmm.
so important. Um, but one thing I will say about like working on the weekends, working late, working early is I don't assign like a value to it. Like I don't say like, Sam, you're doing good today because you worked early and you worked late. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
choice. And that choice is bringing me closer to my goals. So I don't love when I hear like, oh, I'm working so hard, like I'm so much better or anything like that. It's not a good or
Mm-hmm.
a bad thing. We all have a choice and we get to choose how we want to spend our time. And I try really hard, and I think I'm pretty good at it, like to not beat myself up if I need a day off. And I think that's a totally fair thing.
Yeah, that's
Right.
amazing.
So you're doing work in progress and showing up. That's the most important thing for you to show
Yes.
up.
Work in progress, always.
Yeah.
Kat,
No, but
would
I
you like
love that
to?
you are already so in touch with what you want from your business, like in the long term, like saying, making that decision that it's a that you don't want to focus completely on SEO, but like also the web design, because it's really important also what you do and what you want to do.
Totally.
Um, Another question from Borislav. He
Oh.
asked, does your employer know about your other job? And I want to build on that a bit, that like if they know about your working, does that
Mm-hmm.
affect um like you working in the office? Like if they know that in a couple of years you're going to quit, does that have any negative implications for you?
So such a good question. So when I just I'll kind of go into like a touch a few things on this. So when I decided that I want to transition into Samantha Digital, I my job was very busy and demanding. And
Mm-hmm.
so I decided like let me get a new job because I was just really getting burnt out. And I was like, let me get a job where I can learn a new skill that will help me with business. So I picked finance because my former job was in project management, and I really am just not good with finance, even though my degree is in economics, ironically. And so I got a job in finance. And when I went to sign my offer letter, after I had verbally agreed to take this job, they had in the offer letter that says you'll not have any sort of side employment, side gig, side hustle. You won't be a yoga teacher. If you do any of these sort of things, you'll report it to
Wow.
us. And I was like, oh man, like at this point, like Samantha Digital is like a little baby seed in my brain. It's weird and awkward to say like my long-term goals that might change. And
Mm.
I already verbally agreed. So I decided to take the job and kind of see what would happen. And then in September timeframe, they have this like big annual reporting where you need to provide like a lot of information about investments and any side businesses. And so at that point, I disclosed that I have a side business, even though at that point you could barely call it a business. And they said, no, you can't do this while you're working at this company.
Mm.
So I spent about like 8 to 9 months trying to get a new job and working on Samantha Digital, like very little. It was like mainly me just trying to learn about running a business, web design, and SEO. It was not so much of a business at that time. And so I finally got a new job that didn't have such a strict requirement. With that said, I'm not running through the office being like, I can't wait to leave you all. I'm going to build this big, beautiful business. And so I do try and keep it really hush hush. For
Mm.
example, LinkedIn would be a really great place for me to try and grow Samantha Digital, but I
Mhm.
just refuse because I'm concerned about potentially running into coworkers there.
Mm.
Similarly, on my Google business profile, I
Mhm.
have it shown that my business is only open from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. because I don't want there to be any sort of conflict or concern that it's like,
Of course.
how can your business be open to 9 to 5 while you're working for us 9 to 5? And
Mm.
so
Yeah.
I just want to make it as like clear as possible. Um, so yes, I in my experience, I wouldn't recommend like going to your employer and saying, I have the side gig, I'm gonna be growing only after work. I probably just m- what's worked for me is like just not say anything. If there
Okay.
is a clear requirement though, where your job is like, you must report this, you must do this or that, like then that's totally different. Like don't lie, but
Mhm.
try and
Mhm.
just keep it as like it's a personal side of me. Like I don't go into the office like disclosing all of my personal information. So I just kind of keep Samantha Digital separate.
I see.
Wow. It's crazy how much companies ask. Like, did you say one company was asking for investments that you have?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
That's so personal, though. Like, how can
Mhm.
they
Oh,
ask
yeah.
that? That's like
Ye-
asking for your banking details and everything. Like,
Yeah, oh no, very much so. I think because it's a very big consulting company and they're
Mhm.
worried
mm,
about conflict of interest with their clients.
Yeah.
And so I was really surprised to learn that they had concern with my little web design and SEO agency that just built web websites for, cleaning companies and energy activists at the time. But their
yeah,
thought was that, there's a conflict of interest because they build websites. I mean, they don't build $1,000 websites. They build $1 million applications. So
Still,
I didn't think it was going to be a conflict of interest, but yeah, it was crazy.
background checks in
yeah.
America are totally on a different level. Is it like
I
in the movies?
know.
It is like in the movies, right?
America?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the stereotypes are true more or less, I have to say.
Yeah. But I've also heard I have some friends who worked in Australia and they used to get random drug testing and they worked like in an office. I'm like, that's crazy that the office would even care about that. Like what you do in your free time should be, you know,
Mhm.
and
Totally.
they would get randomly drug tested. Oh God.
Oh wow. No, I don't, at least in my experience in corporate America,
Mm,
that hasn't been a thing, but
Mhm.
maybe it just depends. Like if you're in law enforcement, then I could see that being a thing.
maybe,
Maybe
yeah.
some branches of government, but for the most
Yeah.
part, no.
Yeah, for some jobs it makes sense, but
Yeah.
Not just your average Joe job.
Yeah.
yeah.
He also had another question. He
Oh,
was like very how to say hesitant to ask because he was like, oh, she probably did it that way. I'm like, let me ask him, let's find
oh,
out.
yeah.
He was wondering, how do you find your clients for Samantha Digital? Do you approach maybe
Ooh.
coworkers, companies? Do you do cold reach out or SEO? How do you find your clients?
Ooh, I love this question as well. So, I started with a couple people that I knew as like a friend of a friend, only in the very, very beginning.
Mhm.
And I think it's a fine way to start out in the beginning, but I do not recommend it as a long-term strategy at all. I almost
Mhm.
say it's probably better to like just do passion projects
Mhm.
because when you work with family and friends, especially when you're very new to your entrepreneurial journey, you might not be great at communicating, at setting boundaries, at honestly just del your deliverables may not be necessarily all that great. And so
Mhm.
that could put strain on the relationship, on your feeling towards that person. And so that is definitely not something like I'm actively doing at all. I will say, fortunately, like those clients that I have worked with have all been very positive, and I learned a lot from those. But I have heard horror stories, so that's why it would not be my number one recommendation. And so, aside from that, I did use Fiverr very, very briefly, but I think only like one or two clients. And then I tried on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I even SEO, ironically, so local SEO in my area, I've gotten a few clients that way. With Instagram, what I did, and it has really like paid dividends. It was such a good idea. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it always works out this way, but it was huge for me. Um, Almost a year ago now, I offered a promotion that if you share this post, then you could enter to win 3 months of SEO services. And I was really hoping that I was like, oh, this is such a good offer. Like, who's not going to share this? My Instagram is going to blow up.
Yeah.
And obviously that did not happen. I think I got 3 entries that were all from food bloggers. And obviously, I have a very special place in my heart for food bloggers. But at the
Mm-hmm.
time, I was really hoping to attract a local business that I could do SEO for and show the
Mm-hmm.
results that way because I love working with local businesses that have a local presence.
Mm-hmm.
And so um obviously I didn't get any of those entries. And so I went with the food blogger that did the most kind of tasks to kind of double her entry. She left a comment, she shared to her story, she liked it. And so I went with her, we got on a call and I did the SEO for her. And those 3 months of SEO went really well. I got her results. And then, after that, those 3 months of me working for her, she brought me like 4 clients for SEO and web
Oh,
design. She
There you go.
got me on a podcast that was like so, so big. And so that has been like really, that worked out so, so good. But like not only that, like I got the results of like
Mm-hmm.
being able to say like this is what I can do. And so um, you know, I have a very love-hate relationship with Instagram, but that was something that like overall went really, really well. Um, so I will add also too, I did try cold outreach. In fact, it was one of the very first things that I had my virtual assistant do for me. I got
Mm-hmm.
her a list of leads. Basically, I hired a gig on Fiverr and they scraped the data for like my area, Fairfax, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hundreds and hundreds of leads. And I asked my virtual assistant Elaine, I was like, can you go through this list, email them? And I gave her a series of scripts about like how to pitch to get web design and SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I mean, I know I need to be patient here, but like it's been over a month now, and I think we got like one response. And at the time, we're putting out like 15 emails a day, we're following up with people,
Mm-hmm.
and come to find out, all of her emails are going to spam because there's a concept of warming up an email first. So if you create an email, which I did for my brand new virtual assistant, and then just
Mm-hmm.
start rapid firing emails, even 10 to 15 a day, Google's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's sus. Like, that's not like normal. And so they
Exactly.
were
mm.
putting her emails in the spam box.
I
And
see.
so I think eventually I'll go back into cold outreach. But for now, it's kind of on hold until I figure out a new game plan. So if you do want to go the cold outreach, definitely take it slow. Don't start rapid firing like 10 to 15 emails a day.
Okay. Good
That's
advice. Thanks so
good
much.
advice.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I love the idea with the Instagram post. And I think it's really interesting
Yeah.
that, so I mean, I think we've all been there with Instagram where we're like, this post is great, it's going to go viral.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't. But like you thought that it would be something really big and then you got a few responses. But actually from there, then you got like, did you say like 4 other clients and you were on a
Yeah.
podcast? So
Mm-hmm.
even though the post maybe didn't go as well as you hoped, it
Yeah.
still had a really good result in the long run.
Totally. Yes, absolutely.
And the
Yeah,
secret
super interesting.
And I think the secret there was that you focus more on the relationship with that one client and bringing the service to the level that you wanted to. So I think you got
Yeah.
great results, like 3 replies.
Yeah.
It's awesome already. You got one client for 3 months, which you
Yeah.
make their blog appear in the search. And then you got additional benefits afterwards, which you didn't expect. So I
Totally.
think it was a great success.
Yeah. Yeah. And looking back on it now, totally. But the 3 days after the promotion, I was like, oh, well, that was a flop. But I mean, of course, I was excited to work and help a food blogger for sure. But you get all up in your head about like, oh, this is going to be so successful and I'm going to crush it. So it all worked out perfectly. And I'm beyond thankful for that food blogger. We stay in touch today, and it's so fun to like see each other on our journeys. And she's fantastic.
Great, great.
Oh, it's so nice. I think that's the best
Yeah.
part of also like working for yourself, that you can choose the people that you work with, the people that you enjoy doing business with. And I think then that actually makes the results much better, because when you really care about your client's business, then of course you're gonna, I think if you don't care about their business, you still put in the work, but it's in a different way. I don't know how to describe
Totally.
it necessarily, but it's a different energy maybe you give or something like that, that when you really love the client, then yeah, it's much better.
I think
Totally.
I think
Absolutely.
Samantha said specifically ambitious business owners. So, right?
Yeah.
Was that the
Yeah.
word? Yeah.
I know on one
Right.
hand, I feel like it's cliche to say like it's a like yeah, all business owners should be, but I don't know. I think it is an important differentiation to make. Like
Hmm.
I like to work with like go-getters that are full of energy and want to like go, go, go. So
That's amazing. I
Mm.
think that can be also considered as your niche, because you already filter out people who are like wishy-washy about their business, and those who want to work with you, they will be like, okay, I see myself in this world. I will be working with her. So
yeah.
I think it's a
Yeah.
great way.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting when we talk about niche, because I think a lot of people think niche is like, food bloggers or like
Hmm.
lawyers or
Yeah.
artists or whatever. But actually, sometimes, like for me also, I'm starting to feel that it's kind of the type of person that I like working with rather than like what they actually do. And that's my niche. But yeah, it's very different because we always think about niche as the type of business necessarily.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, and I
Mm.
think oftentimes that we think of it as like an industry per se rather than a type of person is because when you're
Hmm.
first starting out in business, it doesn't even occur to you that like there's these other types of niches. Like I like ambitious people, or
Yeah.
I like people, specifically that have a local presence. Like you're just thinking, okay, what type of companies are there? There's lawyers, there's doctors. And so I
Mm.
think it's like one of those things that kind of evolves over time as you kind of get into your journey.
Yeah, when you start learning more. So, what would be some of the main things that you think that you've changed over these past couple of years that you've been growing Samantha
Ooh.
Digital? Like from when you started to now, what are your
Hmm.
biggest developments?
Ooh. So this first one has been definitely over the past probably 4 to 6 months that I've really like wanted to make this more of a focus in terms of like pivoting and Samantha Digital is in the beginning, I was trying to do a little bit of so much. I was trying to be on Instagram. I was trying to do SEO for my own website. I was trying to come up with all of these like elaborate marketing, build my brand, make a course, sell templates. But I've over these past few months and just being so busy and tired, I have found like that the most important thing to do is to say no. And I know you
Mm.
and well, both of you guys are talking about this in the recent episode about humble beginnings. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, not only is it important to say no to client work and not being everything for everyone, but it's also important to say no regarding like all of the internal operations and all of your internal plans. Because as entrepreneurs, we get so excited about like all of these ideas and we have a million things that we want to implement. But like, I've been trying to focus on like, I have one job. I have to get clients on Instagram and I have to
Mm.
deliver them great results. Forget about all of the noise about like having, perfectly systemized processes at this point in my business. Like, sure, they're important, but to obsess over it and to have my SOP perfectly defined or to try and learn this new skill and that new skill, like, bring it back to like the basics of just getting clients and doing great work for them. And then,
Mm.
picking like one or two things that are, you're intentional about and strategic about, and then including that. But don't try and spread yourself into a million directions. Like I found that like I wish I could go back and tell myself when I first decided to do Samantha Digital, like you have two jobs. Post good content on Instagram and get clients and do good work. That's it. Forget about all
Really.
the noise. Okay, three. Thank you, Nicoletta. Hold me accountable. So, so yeah.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
love that. Such good
Yeah.
advice.
And thank you for mentioning our episode, by the way. It means
Ooh, yeah.
somebody is
Yeah.
listening.
Oh yeah, I love your podcast. It's funny. I was really nervous this morning, and then I was like, Sam, just think about their past like podcast episodes. It's like you're just hanging out talking to a friend. So that helped
Uh,
me feel good. But yeah, I loved a lot of the episodes. It's so fun to hear you guys chat and get all the good information, whether it's between you two or your guests.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We love to hear
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Feedback after we record the episodes is also always welcomed and from our listeners as well. And
Oh,
I cannot wait for you to listen to the next episode, which is about
ooh.
digital nomading and also freelancing. So I hope you will tune in for that one as well.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, definitely will.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, you were talking about like spreading yourself thin, like at the beginning, like saying yes to
Ooh,
everything
yeah.
and trying to do too much. How does that play into your personal life, like with your relationship with your friends? Did they ever think that you're spending too much time on your business, or how did this work out like when you first started?
Basically, how is your work-life balance going on?
Mm.
I will say in the beginning it was definitely like, wow, Sam's working a lot, but I think my friends understood and it was never like they would exclude me
Mm.
intentionally or just be like, "Oh, I'm working tonight." And I mean, I would still absolutely make time to hang out with them. Um, so that was never a problem, luckily. And then I'm sorry, what was the other part of the question? Sorry.
Well, I think, yeah, just
Oh,
balancing the relationship and your friends and stuff.
oh,
So I
okay,
think
got it.
that's it.
Yeah. So, luckily, like my partner also likes to work a lot, so we try and prioritize like, okay, we'll have dinner together, and then we always watch TV right before bed, and then usually Saturday mornings we spend together. And then of course, like we see each other throughout the day because we both work from home. But
Mm.
because we have the same kind of goals and ideas about working, it kind of works out nicely. So that's been pretty good. But then just in terms of being able to be productive with only 24 hours in a day while having to work 40 hours a week, I think one of the two biggest things that I like to say that like I've done well early on and would recommend to any entrepreneur is finding a good mentor and like learning from them. So for example, Kat, I have to plug your coaching. Like that's been so helpful for me as a designer and an investment I highly recommend making for whatever industry you're in, just finding someone. And the thing with finding a mentor is it has to be mutually beneficial. And so usually there is like some sort of financial compensation, but at the end of the day, when you think about like all of the time that you're saving learning from someone that you aspire to be like and grow kind of in their way, then like I can't recommend getting a mentor enough. And then the other two is like trying to really run your freelancing side gig business as a full-time business. And so, for example, like I decided to invest in a virtual assistant because I only have so many hours in a day, and
Mhm.
there's plenty of repeatable tasks that she can help me with. And so, this was like a really good investment because I'm getting more time to do some of the strategic work and growing Samantha Digital and building my brand versus like the other things that just really need to get done that she can help me with. And so if I can pay a relatively affordable rate so that I can get that hour back to recharge or spend it with my partner or
Mm.
do something else, then that is totally worth it for me. And I think the other great benefit of investing in a VA early is forcing you to one, create systems and processes that are repeatable,
Yeah.
but then two, to also let go of your business because you don't want to be the single bottleneck of like why things aren't getting done. And at the end of the day, there's only so much that a single person can do. And so I highly recommend a
Yeah.
mentor and a virtual assistant, like two of the biggest parts of my business.
Mm. I think it's
Great.
such great advice to think about our business like a business because probably also with design, we get very passionate about it. And when we do love it, it becomes like our passion project, even though it is our main business.
Yeah.
And I think of creating that separation, like I'm trying to do this with Instagram at the moment. Like I think I got two like I really started to enjoy Instagram, but I have to, as you say, think back and say, no, I have two jobs, make content, get clients. And rather than thinking about it like a personal thing, like it's not me, it's just my business. So stepping away from that, I think is such good advice, especially from the beginning.
Totally.
And you mentioned the hours in the day. I don't know why I assumed you commute to the full-time job, but you don't. You work from home?
So that, yeah, sorry if I didn't mean to like hide that or not make that clear. So I am
Oh,
very
no.
fortunate that I work from home 3 to 4 days a week. So I'm only commuting in twice a week. And where I live, traffic is really, really bad, but I'm um, very fortunate I got to work out something with my boss where I go in early and I leave early to offset the traffic a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm,
not like I'm spending hours in the car. It's like 30 minutes one way. So I will say I am guilty of like that hour in the car. I'm usually listening to like my favorite SEO YouTuber or
Of
like
course.
design course or something. But um, it's funny because by the time I actually get to work, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do Samantha Digital so bad right now. But then I'm like, okay, I have to go into my job. But yeah, so that having that flexibility to work from home, I think is so, so important. And I will say I am an advocate of finding a job that gives you financial stability, but also freedom. So
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to leave your job. I took quite a significant pay cut when I decided to go to that financial company for my project management job because I didn't want to be working 10-hour days on my 9 to 5. I didn't want to have all of that responsibility and be so, so stressed and burned out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I
mm.
found something that would be a little bit less responsibility, give me more freedom. And honestly, like that was very, very helpful to not have like that level of stress and
Pressure.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, the
Yeah,
stress definitely, because if you're stressed and you have to put so much energy into your 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
then when you get home, you're not going to have that that energy left over.
totally.
Yeah. And I just was wondering, uh, when do you schedule time for play? When do you play?
Play. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
when do you play? When do
Oh
you
my
have
gosh.
fun?
It's so funny. It's so funny that you asked me about that because like I've had multiple people in my life say, Sam, you need a hobby. You need something that isn't
Work.
work at your 9 to 5 or Samantha Digital or play with the dogs. And I have not made that a priority at this time. I mean, there's plenty of things that I would love to do. Like I would love to get back into baking sugar cookies. Like I love sugar cookies. I would love to do that. I would love to do DIY home improvement type of stuff. There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of
Mm.
things, but to be totally honest, I right now my priorities are growing Samantha Digital into a place where I can take those breaks to pursue my passions. But
Yeah.
it kind of just goes back to like for me right now, I value rather than splitting my time, focusing strictly on Samantha Digital, knowing that rest is productive. I can take breaks when I need to. It's not a bad thing. And that
Mm-hmm.
there'll be plenty of time for those hobbies in a year or two when Samantha Digital is more stable. But it's a sweet little baby right now, and I need to nurture
Oh.
it and grow it. And so, um, those like hobbies or just Sam kind of things will definitely be there for me down the road. But for right now, it's very much like 9 to 5, Samantha Digital, family and friends.
Mm. And hot
Yeah.
yoga from time to time.
Time to time because the neck pain and the back pain from sitting like this is very real. And I feel like, yeah, taking care of my health is like no longer an option because during the pandemic, I totally put that to the side, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm.
like, no, I need to make the time. Do you guys ever find yourself struggling with that too, or make the
Yeah,
time for like exercise and health care type
Sometimes.
things?
yeah,
Yeah.
eating.
Oh, I always make time for that, but
Yeah, I have no
exercise can
problem
be
forgetting
hard.
eating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
think sometimes I also prioritize like the work more than like the exercise or anything like that, especially
Absolutely.
as you say, like when you're in this growing phase, which we are maybe always
Yeah.
in a growing phase, but you really want to make it work. And then I am like, oh yeah, I can run tomorrow, but then tomorrow there's
Yeah.
another thing to happen. And then like,
Mhm.
yeah, so
It
I struggle
rains.
with that a bit.
It
Yeah,
rains. It
exactly.
rains. Yeah.
But no, I'm so excited to see where you're going to go. It sounds like you're really organized, like you've got everything working really well, and you've got a good plan for the future.
Oh, that's
Yeah, very
so
excited.
kind of you to say, but I also really want to emphasize that I do try and be very strategic about things, but like, and I'm trying to give advice to everyone that's listening in, but at the same time, like, things are very, very far from perfect. Every day I am not motivated. My system isn't, or my business isn't a well-oiled machine. I don't have clients reaching out to me every day. It's very much like a work in progress. And like all of the things I'm sharing, like I try to implement to the best of my ability, but by no means is like everything like Instagram perfect at all. So I hope that nobody is feeling that way. I hope that you're just feeling inspired to maybe try and implement some of these things in your entrepreneurial journey.
Earlier in the episode, you already mentioned two of your favorite SEO tools. Do you have maybe another one to wrap it up and make it as a final three tools that you would recommend for people to
Ooh.
try?
So maybe not a tool, but a tip that I highly recommend for anybody that's kind of interested in getting their feet wet with SEO
Mm-hmm.
is establish a physical presence. And I don't mean go out and, buy a storefront. I just mean commit to a home base. Like, for example, my home base is Fairfax, Virginia. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a physical office that I go to every day, but I do have a presence in the Google business listing so that people that are looking locally, which is very common, they can easily find me. And
Mm-hmm.
so even if you're working remotely or around the world, just pick a place that you want to be your home base. That will go so far for like local SEO and getting clients. This way, you don't necessarily need to compete on the national level. Like, you know, the competition for web design versus web design, Fairfax, Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
there's no comparison. You have a much greater chance of like when you pick a home base.
Mm-hmm.
And so I highly recommend that, even if you can work from anywhere around the world.
Nice.
Great.
Great tip.
Thank you. I
Uh,
will lean into that advice for sure.
yeah,
Awesome. Great.
definitely.
Yes.
So, so thank you so much for joining us. I love that you've been really open about your business and how it is a work in progress. Like, even though maybe from the outside it looks all organized and everything, like there's stuff going on behind the scenes. So
Totally.
thank you for that. Okay, so before we finish up, do you have a service that you'd want to promote to our listeners? And also, what are you cooking at the moment?
Ooh, so my service that I'd like to promote is a new service. It's my SEO audit service. And so if you're not necessarily looking for done for you SEO and you really just want somebody to look at your website and tell you exactly what to do, then I
Mhm.
highly recommend my SEO audit service. You can learn more about it from my Instagram page or my website. And if you mention this podcast, you can get 20% off. And in terms of cooking right now, I'd be lying if I said like sugar cookies or pizza. It's been very much like meal prep and just food delivery as we like make it through this last few months of the wedding. But I hope to bake up a batch of cookies really, really soon. I've been craving some good sugar cookies.
Nice. Thanks so
Sounds
much for
good.
the transparency.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun chatting with you both.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
We're going to include all the links in the description for everybody wondering where they can find your services and your profiles.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. See you
Thank you
next
so
time.
much.
Bye.
Bye.